Okay, good morning. Hopefully we shouldn't be too long this morning. So we're quarter. Just on. Today's meeting is being filmed for live and subsequent broadcast by the way of the Council's internet site. The images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the Council. As you will see from the agenda papers, generally the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you will consent to be filmed and to the possible use of these images and sound recordings for webcasting and training purposes. Proposed public speakers have been made aware of the broadcasting arrangements prior to this meeting. Would members please use their microphones to contribute to the meeting, and please remember to switch the microphones when you are finished, off when you are finished. Members dialing in remotely, please only turn on, that's quite wrong with it, it's the leave cameras on now. Yes. Could members at home please leave their cameras on at all times so we know that you are in the meeting, otherwise you will not be able to cast the vote. Okay, thank you. And also, could you ensure you refrain from using any mobile devices during the committee and that any devices are on silent. Do we have any apologies? Okay, thank you. Councillor Routley, Councillor Jones. Any declarations of interest? No. Minutes of the last meeting held on the 3rd of July. You should have all had a copy of these. I'm not going to go through them. Somebody agree that are true, please? Okay. Councillor Jordan, Councillor Orton, thank you very much. There's only the one item on the agenda today, so we'll hand over. This is application. It's the Docksway in Newport. There's no number on there. Sorry. So yeah, can we hand over to Steve Williams, please?
Oh, thank you, Chair. Okay. Just try to share the screen again. Okay, there. Okay, that's right, is it? It's only just showing part of the screen, but right, fine. Okay, so that's the application site outlined in red. It's located on part of the council's landfill site, just south of the Newport Household Waste Recycling Centre, which is to the south of Usk Way. The application is proposing a 1 megawatt ground-mounted solar farm, and the application has been submitted by the council. The site is over 3 hectares in size, so it comprises a major plan application, which is why it's being reported to Planning Committee. So this plan just shows some constraints. So in red there you've got the application site, and then to the north and northwest you've got the Household Waste Recycling Centre. It's right on the roundabout by Docks Way there, and then to the east you've got the wider Docks landfill site. And then to the west of the site you can see the River Elbow. And that's just an aerial photograph of the site. So you can see it's covered in scrub with some trees. There's a pond located centrally within the site, which is encircled by trees. So this is the proposed site layout. Access would be achieved from the northern extent of the site via the existing service road that currently serves the Household Waste Recycling Centre. And so from that point then, it's proposed to construct an access track which runs sort of in a north-south direction within the western part of the site, right down to the southern tip of the site there. 2 temporary construction compounds would be provided, one in the far north of the site and one in the far south. Solar arrays would be sort of laid out in the fashion that you can see on the plan. Right at the north here, there's a switch room proposed, which is located close to the access. You can see the pond here and the trees that are around the pond, so there's a buffer zone to enable those trees to be retained. This plan just shows the tree constraints, so you can see the pond is here with these trees that sort of encircle the southern extent of the pond. So these have been retained. G3, G4, G5 are unaffected. There are a couple of trees within the site that are proposed to be felled. The only tree that is worthy of retention is T3 here. So the agent has agreed that they will translocate this tree to a position on the northern part of the site there. So this plan just shows sort of the green infrastructure that's proposed. So along the northern and western boundaries of the site, new hedgerow is proposed with some tree planting. Most of the site will be reseeded with native species-rich grassland. Around the pond, you've got the H represents hibernacula, which are effectively animal shelters for reptiles, so some opportunities there for biodiversity enhancement. That's just a typical elevation of what you'd expect to see. This is the solar panels. You can see that they're placed on these concrete ballasts, so the solar panel arrays would effectively sit on the ground, but would be weighed down by these ballasts. And then this provides you with a section of the panels, so you can see that they're inclined towards the sun. They're a minimum of 800 millimetres off the ground and a maximum height of 3.28 metres. That's just an example of a solar panel. To give you an idea of the dimensions, they're approximately 2 metres by 1 metre. That's the switch room, very much a steel container. And then the site would be surrounded by a fence, a security fence, which is like a mesh design, just over 3 metres in height. And then CCTV cameras would be placed on intermittent fence poles. And that's just above ground cables. So cables would run across the site above ground in these sort of containments. So in terms of the issues, the site is within the urban boundary of Newport. It's a brownfield site, so it's considered it's in a suitable location for a solar farm. Renewable energy is supported by policy CE10 of the local development plan, and national planning policy is clear that it sees significant benefits in renewable energy generation. In terms of site suitability, a sequential assessment was submitted with the application, which has identified the merits of location, and these have been outlined in the report for you. Key advantages are that the site is owned by the council, it's located next to an existing substation, and the electricity generated will go direct to charging the council's EV refuse fleet. So in terms of visual impact, the development site is low level. So the site itself is low in terms of topography, but the landform of the Lansfield site then increases height to the east, which you'll see from some photographs I'll go through now. But the site itself is quite low. What the developer's done is provided us with a landscape appraisal, and then these VPR vantage points. So they've taken photographs from these vantage points, just so people, so you can get an idea of how visible the site is. So if I run through these, so this is the first one. So this site is VP1, and it's taken from the coast path on the east bank of the River Usk, so this position here. So you can see you're looking across the river, and the site is effectively behind these buildings, so you can't see the site from that location at all. Then VP2, so VP2 is taken closer, quite close to the site from the A48 there. So you can see that the site is here, and land starts to slope upwards. So this is actually land to the east of the site. So all you're going to see from here are sort of glimpses of the most northerly part of it. You just see possibly some glimpses. You can see it obscured by vegetation, so the impact there is very low visually. 3, so this is taken from the junction into the household recycling centre from that roundabout. So you can see that the site is behind these buildings. The land behind is land to the east of the site. So you can see it slopes up quite high, but what we're looking at is quite low, screened by these buildings. Vantage 4, I'll just tell you where Vantage 4 is. This is to the south, so you're sort of down in south of Dufferin here, about a kilometre away. The site is in here, but as you can see, it's sort of screened by intervening vegetation over the landscape. And you've got all this other paraphernalia. You've got these pylons and various things. You can see the site, the remainder of the site slopes up much higher, but the site that we're looking at is in here. This is vantage point 5, which is in a similar location, just here, just a bit to the east. And again, the same. It's very limited. It's that one there. It's in here. And finally, we got a photograph there. This is from Lighthouse Road, vantage point 6, which is close to Dufferin. So we'll show you that. Again, because it's quite low, it's not going to be seen from here. It's screened by all this intervening vegetation. And finally, vantage point 6 is much further away up here. Possibly the only location here that, in terms of residential properties, will be visible. So they've taken an image there, looking down, but it's much further away. So it's going to be in here. So you may see glimpses of it here, but obviously it's in the context of industry, wind turbines, overhead power lines. So it's not considered it would have an adverse impact on the landscape. Trees, in terms of trees, 12 trees will be lost, but they're proposing to plant 39. So that provides a 3-to-1 replacement ratio, and that accords with national planning policy requirements. Conditions have been requested, or have been imposed at the request of the tree officer to ensure that T3 is translocated according to an agreed methodology, to make sure that it's replanted in a way that gives it the best chance of surviving that translocation process. And the tree officers also asked for an arboriculturist to be appointed to perform a watch and brief. Ecology, showed you the green infrastructure plan earlier. which outlines the ecological mitigation. What I didn't mention was that we also required an Optus survey. That was requested by Natural Resources Wales, so they submitted that. It shows that there aren't any Optus using the site, but it's considered that there's potential that they could. So we've got a plan condition to require the security fence of intermittent gaps along its length to allow Optus to enter the site and use it if they wish. Contamination. The site's been capped. Environmental Health got no objection to the use of the site as a solar farm. Conditions have been requested by Natural Resources Wales and Environmental Health in relation to further information on contamination. So we've imposed those planning conditions. Highways, no objection from the highway officer. Obviously the site is quite well serviced by the existing household waste recycling centre off Asquay, and traffic movement is expected to be extremely low. So there's no objection. I think it's 4 times a year it's expected the site would be visited, and there'd be no on-site presence. Construction access would be created during the construction process. I'll just show you where that would go. So the construction access would come in here. Perhaps if I show you the... yes, the construction access would come off this road here and cut in there. So it doesn't affect the operation of the recycling centre during construction. But then that will be blocked off. And then we've got a condition to make sure that is blocked off once the development's been completed. So I think that covers everything, and we're recommending plan permission be granted subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. There's no public speakers, so I'll just open the floor up to questions. Anybody have any questions? Councillor Jordan.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. It's actually not going on the actual landfill site itself, is it? No, where it's for over years all the rubbish has been going on. It's not actually on that land itself, is it? Or
yes, it is. Yes,
it is also
part of it, not all of it, because obviously it sort of sweeps to the east of the site as well. But yes, it is on part of the landfill site.
Right. So yeah, I can't see it being a problem, because if it's just waste land, the land can't be really used for much, can it really? So it's a beneficial to use something like this for that on that land as well. And okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Chair. Number of questions. If I remember rightly, a few years ago, there was an application for a solar farm on the waste disposal site previously. Is that correct?
No, I don't recall that. Pretty sure we've not had an application for a solar farm on the site.
It was on the site, but obviously it's not in the site history. I know that. I agree it was the land next to it, but it's not shown in the site history that Newport City Council applied for planning permission to put a solar farm on the site. Not this particular area, I do admit, but it's not on the site history. The other one is access to the pond. Now, I'm concerned the pond is there for a reason, not just for nature reasons. It's there for draining off water from the waste disposal site, which we're talking about putting solar panels on. Now, if there is contaminated water going into this pond, how are Newport City Council going to access that if there's going to be solar panels close to it? Is there going to be an access onto there?
I don't know what the arrangements are in terms of how the site is managed, and whether access is required by the council to that pond. That's just not information I got, I'm afraid.
Can we ask the officers then to find out and come back to the planning committee? I've got no problem with that, long as access can be granted to that pond for the removal of any waste contaminated waters which is drained off from the site.
Are we aware that there's a pond for from drained water from the site?
I mean, the site is capped. So,
Yeah. Sorry, Steve, I'll interrupt there. I think what Councillor Watkins, Watkins on about is, I used to run a waste disposal site, and once a site is capped, there are leachate points, which sometimes go into a pond, and then, if it's needed, it will take leachate water off. It's not always needed, so whether we take water off, it might just be a natural pond, I'm not sure, but that is something we could look at and just make sure there is safe access to there. If there's access to the solar farm, I'm sure there'll be safe access to the pond as well, if needed, if it is a leachate pond. Otherwise, it might leachate might go to another point where they then take it off-site.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's okay, that's fair enough.
Okay.
The other question is, Chair, is on item 4.1, Natural Resources Wales. It says that they're happy to, how can I say, approve the application on concerns in regards to they're satisfied that these concerns can be overcome in identification of approved plans and documents, conditions and decisions notices. So have these conditions which Natural Resources Wales have put forward, have they been approved and you're happy with those?
the conditions that Natural Resources Wales have requested have been imposed, yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Any other want to speak? Anybody at home? No? Okay. So the
Sorry, Chair, I had my hand up for a while. I don't know whether it's shown up in the chamber or not.
Okay, yeah, I see it now. Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Reynolds. It's surprising.
No problem.
You usually speak. Go ahead.
I'm not quite sure how to take that. Anyway, I've actually got three questions, if you don't mind. The first one is to do with the tree. Unless I've missed it in the report, I'm just wondering if you know what the significance of tree T3 is. Why is that the one that's being transplanted? And sort of the flip side of that is, why are the other trees not of equal significance, if you like? Why are they being felled and tree T3? Blimey, try saying that after a few drinks. Why is T3 the one that's being moved? The second question then is to do with the 5 metre gap between the rows of panels. I know the main part of the site is obviously the former tip, so I wouldn't imagine you'll have a great deal in the sense of ground nesting birds and that sort of thing. But on the wider area, how much significance has been given to the wider impact on the ecology of maybe the loss of ground nesting birds and the loss of other sort of flora and fauna because of the rows of panels and the effect it will have further out? And my last question is to do with the units that are used. The output of the plant is being measured in excuse me, in peak megawatts, MWP. Now, theoretically, that means it could reach that peak for 1 minute of the year. Why isn't there more average output used rather than the peak output? Because the peak output to me is meaningless. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, T3 then. So a tree survey was submitted, and what they look at a range of things when they're looking at arboriculturist and takes a tree survey. They look at the size, the species, the health of the tree, all those various factors, and then they categorise them. And the best quality are categorised as A. I think it goes down to D. T3 is the only category A. It's the best one. So there's a couple of trees there. and the tree officer accepts that there's a balance to be had. There's obviously pressure for development and the benefits that you get from the development, which means loss of trees. But obviously, the tree officer then expects there to be replacement, which they are proposing, as I mentioned in the presentations, the ratio 3:1. So it's accepted that there will be some trees lost, but this tree is the only category A, it's the best one, and the tree officer felt that efforts should be made to translocate this to ensure that it's retained on the site. So that's the answer to question 1. Question 2, in terms of the wider impact on ecology, and as you correctly sort of identify here, that the site is close to international nature conservation designations in the River Usk and the estuary. You've got special protection area, special area conservation, so these European level designations. And we have to consider whether the development has a significant effect on those designations. So we've consulted with Natural Resources Wales and with our in-house ecologist, and neither of those sort of experts considered that the site, due to its location, distance away from those designations, but also in terms of the habitat it provides, is going to be attractive to the birds that are protected in those international designations. So the advice that we received was that we didn't have to undertake what's called an appropriate assessment to assess and look to mitigate for any impact, because the impacts were considered to be negligible. The third question is very technical, I must admit. I'm not sure I really got the answer to that. I don't wonder if you're able to shed light on it.
No, in all honesty, the applicants indicated that it is a 1 megawatt plant. They've given us the peak output of that, and that's what we're basing. We're looking at this from a land use planning perspective. Are the proposals acceptable in terms of providing for renewable energy? We consider them to be, but we've got no control about how they present that information to us. Thanks, members.
Okay, fair enough. I suppose from a planning point of view, it makes sense. It just struck me that the quoting a peak value, it is completely meaningless, because say they could be nowhere near that for 364 days of the year, and then just hit it for a part of 1 day of the year and claim that figure. With the ecology, obviously, I'm no expert on ecology, but I are about the knowledge of the experts. But I was just concerned that there may not be an immediate effect on the site itself, but it could have a knock-on effect to other areas. If you lose even just insects in one area, it could affect the attracting of birds to other areas. But yeah, you've given your answer, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rowell. Councillor Rowell, I will say that the area where the solar farm is going is very isolated, so I on personal feelings are I don't think it would affect any other birds or whatever. So if there's no other questions, the recommendation is grant with conditions. Can I have somebody to propose, please? Councillor Jordan, Councillor Ewell second. Show of hands for all those in favour, please. Thank you, that's passed unanimously. Thank you. Before we go, I'd just like to, it was mentioned earlier that we need to carry out some training, especially Councillor Orton and Councillor Routley. I know Councillor Routley's not with us now. But I would like, if you could make it before the next council meeting in September, an hour early, then we will all, and myself included, will carry out this training again. I think it's good to we all think we know everything, but we don't all know everything, that's for sure. So if we could all do this training on the meeting in September, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you all. and all have a rest of the good summer holiday. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.